Hello, Spider-Man fans, and welcome back to Nerd Doc. Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse has arrived in theaters, and that means it's time to take a look at the ending of the film, as well as some important plot details. There will be spoilers for Across the Spider-Verse in this video. This is your spoiler warning. There are chapter timestamps, so you can jump around the video as you wish, and if you have any questions about the movie, or just want to tell us what you thought about it, leave a comment below. As a reminder, the movie is still in theaters, so we can only use footage from the trailers. Please bear with us there. Let's first cover some of the more significant cameos in Across the Spider-Verse. Obviously, almost every Spider-Man from the comics, various animated series, and movies are included. You've seen a lot of them in the trailers already, and there are even more in the full movie. The most notable cameos for most people are going to be Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man showing up. Neither speak at all, but their scenes with Gwen and Uncle Ben respectively are both shown in Across the Spider-Verse when they're discussing the trauma all these Spider-Men have gone through. There's also a reference to Multiverse of Madness, Doctor Strange, and Tom Holland's Peter Parker from the trailer, but we also see Donald Glover as the Prowler. He even has a few lines of dialogue as he's locked up in the main Spider Army base on Earth 928. Most of you probably remember that Donald Glover played Aaron Davis in Spider-Man Homecoming. In that film, he referenced his nephew, who would be Miles Morales in the main MCU timeline. Spot, the main villain of the film, also visits what appears to be the universe where Tom Hardy's Venom resides, which was labeled as Earth 688, which is actually a what-if universe in the comics where Peter Parker mutates into a monstrous spider. That's probably not going to happen in Venom 3, but it's interesting to note. J.K. Simmons also voices several J. Jonah Jameson characters as we hear Daily Bugle reports from various universes throughout the movie. Diving into the main plot points, early in the film we see Gwen doing her thing in her own universe, playing the drums in a band. Peter Parker ends up being the Lizard in Gwen's Earth 65. This is a direct reference to the Edge of the Spider-Verse comics from 2014. Gwen fought Peter while he was the Lizard, not knowing it was Peter. He ends up dying in Gwen's arms just as her police captain father bursts in. This forces Gwen to keep her identity from her father, but she eventually tells him when Vulture from another dimension ends up in Earth 65. Gwen fights Vulture off, getting help from Spider-Man 2099 and Jessica Drew's Spider-Woman, who appear during the battle. It's at this point that 2099 reluctantly recruits her into the Spider Army. We also get a quick update on Miles, who notably served as a guest host on Jeopardy since the last time we saw him. 2 months later, Gwen goes to visit Miles. She's after Spot, who is actually Jonathan Owen, who had a brief appearance in the first movie. This is a deviation from the comics, as Spot from Miles' universe was actually Frank, not Jonathan, who was the Spot from the main 616 universe. Anyway, he was turned into Spot during the Collider explosion at the end of Into the Spider-Verse, so he considers Miles to be his nemesis, although Miles sees Spot as just a villain of the week, something Spot does not appreciate. Spot quickly learns he has the ability to travel the multiverse using his spots. This gives him the idea to gain more spots and therefore more power, which means he needs to find colliders in other universes to recreate the original accident. Spot is on a mission to take everything from Miles, the same way that Miles took everything from him when the collider accident happened, turning him into the supervillain Spot. Gwen went to Miles' universe in order to stop Spot, but she hung out with Miles first, mistakenly giving Spot time to escape. Gwen uses a multiversal watch Spider-Man 2099 gave her in order to open a portal to follow Spot to another universe, but Miles secretly follows her as well before the portal can close. They end up on Earth 50101, where Pravita Prabhakar is the main Spider-Man. Unfortunately, Spot makes it to the Collider despite the Spider-Man getting additional assistance from Spider-Punk. There's some romantic tension between Gwen and Miles, which is further exacerbated by the fact that Pravita hints at a potential relationship between Gwen and Spider-Punk. It's later revealed that Gwen was actually in Spider-Punk's band, and while there is a Spider band in the comics, it consisted of Captain Anarchy, Hulk, Riri Williams, Kamala Khan, Daredevil, and others from Punk's Earth 138. There was no Gwen or any other Spider people. In the comics, Spider-Punk is a big fan of the music of Gwen from Earth 138, but she ends up dying. It remains unclear if Gwen was ever dating Spider-Punk or if they were strictly bandmates and friends. While Gwen very clearly has romantic feelings for Miles, it's also clear that her and Punk are close. It's just a matter of how close. Miles ends up saving the father of Mira Jane, Pravita's girlfriend. Unfortunately, his death was considered a canon event and actually needed to happen. This causes Spider-Man 2099's team to show up to try to contain a multiversal event that would otherwise destroy that reality. It's very similar to the events of Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness and the What If Doctor Strange episode. These canon events generally need to happen for most of the Spider-People to exist, and the next one is the death of Miles' father in 2 days. Because of this, 2099 mandates that Miles has to stay on Earth 928 until his father dies, in order to avoid the disruption of another canon event. If too many canon events are disrupted, the entire multiverse could collapse. It's during this part of the film that we see most of the cameos. All of the Spider-People, Tobey and Andrew, as well as Donald Glover. After Miles allowed the Collider accident to happen in the last movie, the Spider Army has been collecting villains who slip through the cracks and slide into other dimensions. For this reason, everyone there knows who Miles is. Miles obviously doesn't want his father to die, so he escapes Spider Army HQ and leads all the Spider-People on a massive chase through Nueva York, the futuristic Earth 928 equivalent of New York. There's a device at Spider Army HQ that can scan someone's DNA, then send them back to whatever universe they came from. What Miles is really doing is leading all the Spider-People away from Spider Army HQ so that he can access that device, get back to Earth 1610, and save his father from Spot. The end of the film sees Miles succeed in using the Spider Army HQ tech to send him back to his original universe. Unfortunately, the spider that bit Miles did not originate from Earth 1610, instead originating from Earth 42. Because the device at Spider Army HQ scans DNA to determine the person's origin universe, it sees Miles as coming from Earth 42 and sends him there instead of Earth 1610. Gwen sided with Miles, so Spider-Man 2099 sent her back to her own universe, taking her multiversal watch in the process, essentially stranding her there. However, she discovers that Spider-Punk, who quit the Spider Army earlier in the film, left a new watch there for Gwen. Throughout the film, we see Spider-Punk collecting various items from Spider Army HQ, which he then used to build his own multiversal watch. He even went as far as to tell Miles to do this as well, instead of trying to get a watch from 2099. Spider-Man 2099, Scarlet Spider, and Jessica Drew all head to Earth 1610 to stop Miles from saving his father and disrupting another canon event, not realizing that Miles mistakenly went to Earth 42. Gwen also travels to Earth 1610 and goes into Miles' room before realizing what's actually happened. She informs Miles' parents that he's gone, but she's going to go find him. Miles also realizes he's in the wrong universe, and in this universe his father died instead of his uncle, which means the Miles of Earth 42 has been helping his uncle in a life of crime. Miles goes up onto the roof of the apartment building with his uncle, acting like he's going along with some planned crime for that evening. However, once he gets up to the roof, he gets knocked out by a mysterious figure who ends up being the Prowler. When Miles wakes up, he's chained to a punching bag while his uncle is messing around with Prowler's gear. One big change in this universe is that Aaron Davis is not actually the Prowler. Instead, the Prowler is Miles Morales of Earth 42. Because the radioactive spider that was supposed to bite the Spider-Man of Earth 42 ended up in Earth 1610, biting Miles there, it causes the Peter Parker of Earth 1610 to die, and meant there was no Spider-Man for Earth 42, allowing Miles to turn to a life of crime, especially with his father gone. Just before the credits roll, back on Earth 1610, we see Spot heading toward Miles' apartment, Jessica Drew allowing Gwen to leave despite the fact that she's working for Spider-Man 2099, and the Earth 1610 Miles about to escape from Prowler Miles using his electricity on Earth 42. Gwen needs some help if she's going to find Miles, defeat Spider-Man 2099, and help prevent Miles' father from dying, so she gathers a team from Into the Spider-Verse consisting of Penny Parker, Spider-Man Noir, Peter B. Parker, and his new toddler May, which actually lines up with the name of Peter and Mary Jane's daughter in the comics, and the rest of the gang. This is where the movie ends, as we all wait for Beyond the Spider-Verse coming on March 29th, 2024. So how do you think Beyond the Spider-Verse is going to go? Will Miles' father die? Will the Into the Spider-Verse team be able to defeat Spider-Man 2099's team and Spot? Will Miles and maybe even Gwen end up in the main MCU timeline? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. For now, that wraps up this video. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with someone who loves Miles Morales.